This 2010 Volkswagen EOS has been sitting in a backyard for the last 6 years. It doesn't run, is packed full of leaves and other debris, and the interior is absolutely disgusting. Until today.
Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be transforming this Volkswagen EOS and hopefully getting it one step closer to being back on the road. But before I do, let's take a closer look at what I'm dealing with.
Okay guys, I'm going to be honest with you here. This car is going to present me with a huge challenge today. I've never dealt with a situation like this where the paint protection film has caused this kind of a mess. The film has deteriorated so much over the last 6 years, trapping dirt as Mother Nature slowly peeled it off the car, that it's left a rock hard layer of dirt behind that is almost bonded to the paint. At this point, I'm really not sure if I'll be able to get that off, but I can definitely deal with the rest of the mess on the exterior. As for the inside though, it's not going to be easy either. The windows were definitely down at some point while the car sat untouched, as the dust in here clearly tells a story of absolute abuse, as does the disgusting goo that's all over the trim. And if that wasn't enough, there's mountains of garbage and kids' artwork all over the back seat. Oh, and the trunk is packing a mess unlike any other. So get comfy, subscribe to the channel, and prepare yourselves to witness a miracle as I make this car look brand new again. Alright, well, since I don't want to make a mess in the studio here today, I'm going ahead and starting by using the shop vac to suck up all the debris in the windshield cowl here that's accumulated as the car has sat outside for the past 6 years, though I'm sure there's a few of you out there who are wondering why the rest of the car is so clean if it's been sitting for that long. Surely you'd think that it would be covered in dirt all over. Well, there's actually a pretty funny story behind this car, and I'll have more on that a little later in the video. Next step here is to start getting all the paint protection film removed, and while I've actually done this successfully on a few vehicles before, this one didn't go so smoothly. Of course, I'm trying to pull slow at a low angle so as to avoid it tearing, but what I wasn't expecting to happen was for practically all the adhesive to get left behind on the paint. Normally that doesn't happen, so I'm guessing that's a result of it being left on the car for far too long and possibly a low quality PPF being used. In my experience, there hasn't been much difference in removal between just pulling it off and using a heat gun, though that is an option and something I'd recommend using if you're removing a larger amount of PPF. Now up here in the hood, since the film wraps around the edge a bit, I had to pop the hood to give myself a bit more room, and after slowly picking away at it for what seemed like far too long, and getting the little bits that kept breaking off stuck on my fingers, I was able to move on to the next section. Starting in the driver's side mirror now, and in about 5 seconds from now, something terrible happens. Yeah, the power went out. Of course, I instantly started panicking and wondering how the heck I was going to detail and make this video for you guys without power, but luckily it was only out for about 5 seconds, so the crisis was averted, though I did have this happen to me during a detail at my old house about 4 years ago. I believe I was working on a Jeep at the time, so if you're curious you could probably find that video, but yeah, safe to say I was relieved. Alright, well, since neither of the windows will go all the way up for whatever reason, I had to grab some tuck tape and quickly tape the gap off so that I can actually get the car washed today without soaking the interior, even though I'd love to be able to just take a pressure washer to the interior of this car. Moving to the back now, and if you guys didn't know, the EOS is actually a convertible, so I did give some thought today to putting the top down so I had easier access to clean inside the car, but after seeing that the windows didn't go all the way up, and after doing a couple minutes of research on the car, I decided against it. I guess these vehicles had issues with the window motors and the roof motor too, and the last thing I'd want to do is open the roof and then have it get stuck. So while it might have made my job a little bit easier today, it just wasn't worth the risk. Alright, well it's time to see what my pressure washer can do against this dirt and adhesive mix that is practically bonded to the paint. My plan of attack with this today is to first hit it with the pressure washer and then work my way up to more aggressive methods as needed, but I'm not gonna lie, I was really hoping that I was able to get more of it off right now. Now as I work on the hood here, I just wanted to point out that I'm holding the pressure washer very close to the paint, and this is something I would only ever do in the worst of situations, which this definitely is. Normally I'd keep it about 6 to 8 inches away, and that's close enough to blast almost any dirt off a car, but here that just wasn't cutting it, so I took a calculated risk in doing this. But given that my pressure washer is only a 1900 psi unit, pushing 2 gallons a minute, and that I'm using a 40-degree tip, I felt pretty confident that the risk of stripping the paint was very minimal, though like I said, I definitely don't recommend anyone trying this at home. Okay, well coming back to the hood now, as I need to get this dirt off before I wash the car, and I've decided to step it up to using some degreaser and letting that really soak for a few minutes, so I'll continually reapply to make sure it has the best chance of penetrating the dirt and softening it up, and after leaving it sit for about 5 minutes or so, I was happy to see the pressure washer was able to cut through a little bit more of it, but it sure looks like I'm going to have to repeat the process a number of times. After a couple more rounds of degreaser, I was able to get nearly all of it off, so I'll move on to the wash stage now and come back to the remaining adhesive later in the video, just before I finish up the car, as I've got a secret weapon up my sleeve for this. Okay guys, well it's time to start on the engine bay here, which is actually pretty dirty, and after disconnecting the battery, I'll follow my usual process of degreaser, agitation, and a quick rinse. But to give you some background on this car, the guy who owns it is actually the same guy who had brought me the junkyard F-150 from 4 years ago. If you haven't seen that video before, I definitely recommend checking it out, as it was a truly insane transformation on one of the dirtiest vehicles I've seen, even to this day. But anyways, I guess the story with this car is that he saw it advertised for $2,500 and thought, man, that's a great deal. I'll fix up the engine and it'll be a great little car. Problem was, the old guy who was selling it didn't post any pictures of the interior. I guess he had quickly washed the exterior so he could take a couple of pictures, trying to make it look good. So when the guy showed up to buy it and he saw the interior, well, he told me he walked away on the spot. Until the old guy caved and took $1,000 off the price. So for $1,500, he got an absolutely disgusting little car that doesn't run, at least until today when I'll have it looking almost brand new. I guess he plans to surprise his daughter with it for her first car, so I've definitely got a little bit of extra motivation to get this car looking perfect today. Okay, with the engine bay looking fresh now, I'll start on the interior by getting the garbage-laden floor mats removed, dump out all the garbage, and then get to work blasting them all clean. Next step as I dive deeper into this interior is to remove the seats, which thankfully didn't put up too much of a fight considering neither seat back was working properly. Once I had them both out, I could see the full scope of the mess in here, which as you can imagine was truly disgusting. Now, if you guys have watched the channel for a while, you'd probably know I've pulled some pretty weird and crazy things out of vehicles in the past. And honestly, whenever I get a car like this in, I'm always super curious to see what I'll find. Today, it was a couple of old CDs and a knife, which should serve as a reminder to always go slow when doing this, because you just never know what might be lurking in all the junk. As I work on emptying out the storage compartment here, I just have to say that I couldn't believe how much stuff the previous owner managed to fit in here, though what a person needs to have that many coffee stir sticks in their car for is beyond me. Moving to the rear passenger side footwell now, and despite the amount of debris and overall mess inside this car, I have to say that I'm shocked to see the carpets looking somewhat decent. The quality of the carpet is allowing all the debris to get sucked up by the vacuum pretty easily, and there's only some minor stains here and there, so the carpets should turn out looking new again today. Next step in the vacuuming process here is to use my boar's hair detail brush all around the vehicle, agitating in and around all the crevices, but most importantly I'll also use it to help get all this dust sucked up, as the goal of the vacuuming step is to get everything as clean as I can, so that when I come back to these areas with the steamer, I've got less work to do and the mess I make will be smaller. Okay, well it's time to work in the trunk here, where there was a huge pile of something. Honestly, I don't know what most of this debris even is. It almost looks like flakes of rusted metal, but I'm really not sure where that would have come from, so it's very strange for sure. That being said though, it sure was fun to suck it all up, and while I know I don't always film cleaning the trunks of vehicles, just know that it does happen, and I'll typically add it into a video when there's a reasonable mess to clean up. Starting in the carpets now, and rather than showing you every section in the car, I'm just going to show the couple of spots that are the worst. That way I can show you more of the steaming in a bit, because there's a lot of that today. One interesting thing I found though is that right on the edge of the front of where this driver's seat would sit, there must have been a drink or something spilled there, because the extractor pulled out some incredibly nasty dark brown water, which you'll see from a better angle in just a minute. Okay, last section to get cleaned up here is the trunk, and one thing I learned about the EOS when I did a little research is that they really didn't make that many of them. For 2010, only 22,000 were made, and only 230,000 were made in total over its 10-year lifespan. And that's worldwide, so it clearly wasn't a very popular car. Here's all the disgusting water pulled out of the EOS today, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this is the absolute grossest water pour that I've ever seen. That is truly disgusting. Alright, well, so far so good. The driver's door cleaned up really well and basically looks new again, so I'm expecting the rest of the plastic in here to do the same thing, but I can't stress enough how easy of a job this is because of what I'm using. The steamer is by far the most versatile piece of equipment that I own, and when you couple it with my all-purpose cleaner, it's almost unstoppable. It's a combo I would highly recommend to anyone who enjoys detailing their own vehicle or has a dirty house to clean, because you can use it in a lot more places than just your vehicle. If you're curious, the link to the steamer is down in the description for you, and the APC can be found over on my website at detailgeekautocare.com. Okay, turning to the leather with all the artwork on it, and my leather cleaner and some steam should be able to take care of this mess, though for whatever reason the red color didn't want to come off. I've noticed that with carpets too. Anytime there's a red stain, they're almost always there for good, and I guess these couple marks on the leather are too, despite my best efforts. moving to the rubber insert from the driver's door storage compartment now, and I just honestly don't understand how something like this even happens. The moment I hit it with the steamer, it all just turned to a nasty brown sludge, and not surprisingly, after the abuse this thing has faced, there are some stains in the rubber, but at least it'll be clean and presentable now. Alright, now that everything in the car is clean, I'll get some leather conditioner applied with a microfiber applicator pad, and oddly enough, these applicator pads are somewhat hard to find in this exact size. I've always got mine from Geek online, but every other place I've seen them has a larger size, which just wouldn't be as good for how I use these. Okay guys, well here's my secret weapon for all the adhesive on the car. Goo Gone. I'm not sure if this is available in the US or if it's just up here in Canada, but this has always been my go-to product for any adhesive removal. It's pretty easy to use, just apply it to the surface, and if it's a small amount you can just wipe it off right away. But for the massive amount of adhesive on this car, knowing how stuck on it is, I'm going to leave this sit for the recommended 10 minutes and then wipe it off, though it didn't take long to see that it's going to take a couple of applications in order to get it all off. Alright, now that I've taken care of the adhesive, I'm going ahead and applying some of my paint sealant, which is going to really boost the gloss and should last for about 6 months. Then once it's hazed over in about 5 minutes, I'll simply wipe it off with one of my dual pile microfiber towels.
All right guys, well it took 12 long hours to undo the mess in this Volkswagen EOS, and while this car probably could have been sitting in a junkyard somewhere before I started, it is all cleaned up and it's ready for a new life now. And I gotta say, this thing turned out spectacular. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this transformation, make sure you smash the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.